We are tracking another major presidential election, this one in Mexico tomorrow. That country is widely expected to elect its first woman president. Yet violence has overshadowed political campaigns, with dozens of candidates assassinated, the most ever. Guad Venegas is in Mexico City, and a warning, some of what you are about to see is disturbing.
It's a historic presidential election. For the first time in its 200-year history, two female candidates lead the presidential polls in Mexico. Frontrunner Claudia Sheinbaum is the former mayor of Mexico City, a close ally to current President López Obrador. Sheinbaum, who speaks fluent English, is also an academic that has lived in California's Bay Area, studying both at Stanford and Berkeley.
What I like about Claudia the most is their scientific point of view about society.
Sheinbaum's top competitor is Xóchitl Gálvez, a businesswoman and former senator known for her center-right politics. But the historic moment of this election is overshadowed by fear, violence, and death. Dozens seeking office in Mexico this election cycle have been assassinated. Some of the attacks caught on video as the country falls victim to criminal organizations.
We have been living in Mexico a process of violence, insecurity, and penetration of crime organizations trying to get control of local and municipal governments over the past 10 years.
Mexico's gangs connected to known cartels also profiting from human smuggling as thousands of migrants arrive in the country daily, many with hopes of making it to the U.S.
They're all over. They're here in camps like this. There's about 5,000 in Mexico City. I think there's a lot more in the north that are waiting in similar spaces.
Mexico's new president will face pressure from U.S. authorities to stop migrants heading north and avoid a new surge at the U.S. border, as well as demands at home to bring down rampant crime.
Guad, with all the extraordinary level of violence in that country, what kind of security is in place for tomorrow's election?
Well, Mexican officials have announced that more than 27,000 members of the National Guard will be deployed to offer security on Election Day, and more than 500 candidates have received additional security nationwide. Jose.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.